Hello and welcome back to Razorwire, our regular podcast piece we lovingly term as The Professionals. And because indeed, all three of us are information security professionals who have been in this game now for many, many years. And I am joined by my two co-hosts at this point, Chris Dawson and Iain Pye. And today we're going to be discussing all things privacy. Security versus privacy, the grand debate that I've been looking forward to doing with these two for a little while now, since we started planning to do this kind of thing. Because indeed, when we did one podcast a little while back, off camera, there was a bit of a debate. And I thought, oh, this is interesting. So let's set them against one another in the Thunderdome, friend against friend. This should be an interesting one for all of you out there. I'm going to enjoy this immensely. So, which one of you is on the side of privacy?
That'll be me.
So come on, Iain, give us an opening statement on your thoughts on privacy.
There's two elements, I think, to this. So there's privacy of the person, don't watch me, don't be intrusive. And information privacy, which is a kind of different thing, where it's like the right to have some control over how your personal data is collected and used, right? So there's two prongs to this, essentially, in my eyes. And if you ask most people what they think about what privacy is today, you're likely to have conversations about mass data breaches, wearable tech, all that stuff, social networks, obviously. And so what you've got to consider, though, as part of this, is if you think about it, GDPR has instilled in the West a big privacy culture, hasn't it? Let's be honest. Whereas in other parts of the world, say, certain countries with red flags and stars, there's not exactly that element of privacy as well. So it's down to culture as well. And privacy is relatively new in the grand scheme of things, if you think about it, because for years and years and years and years, going back, way back when to Neolithic ages, we've been pretty much intermingled with everyone. We've not had this opportunity up until recently to actually have some form of privacy working from home. It's offered a lot of privacy, hasn't it, for us, because we don't have to go to our office. I don't have to speak to Dawson face to face and talk about his weekend, which would probably involve golf. No one wants that. It's that type of thing. So that, to me, privacy. Whereas security, you kind if you put privacy and security together, the odd bedfellows, if you think about it. I think I've heard the term called kissing cousins, but we won't go into that. Yeah, but the main difference, in my eyes, between privacy and security is that privacy involves how your data is used and controlled, and security is there to protect that. One can live without the other can't live without the other one. So security can exist without privacy, but it's not. The reverse isn't true, in my eyes.
Right, so now the opposing side of the debate. Chris, come on then.
I see what you're saying. It's a relatively new thing. But that's because of the times have changed. So the main reason we need privacy, or you say we need privacy, is because technology's outgrown where we was. So I know you was dying your hardest, really not to say the legislation of 1987 when it first came in. I'll do it. Up until that point, we didn't have the tech that we had, so we didn't need it. Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is that privacy essentially is a fundamental right, isn't it?
Yeah.
With that technology moving on, that has to be matched into and incorporated into that fundamental right.
Okay.
But there's always been an onus on security is bigger than privacy.
Yeah, but if we hone down the privacy pits we're talking about, if we really take it into, so we're talking about privacy on invasive homes, so going through smart devices, the whatnot, what you can and what people can monitor on social media, what we can see on CCTV, what we can pick up on microphones that aren't, you've not signed up to say, yes, please record me, and the whatnot. But without being able to do anything along them lines, we're never going to be secure. We're never going to stop terrorist A. We're never going to stop this, and we're never going to stop that. And yes, I know you're going to say.
I agree with you there. We need walls and doors to stop the bad actors, the monsters, the Chris Dawsons, from gaining access to that type of stuff. I'm not going to disagree with you there.
But how do we get them? Are you saying that privacy?
Privacy is a fundamental right.
Okay, it's a fundamental right. But if I won't go too extreme because this might go out and I might get someone knocking on the door. But if I start to plan something at home,
Get off that fence.
yeah. If I start to plan something at home as a random person, not on anyone's radar, not on anyone's watch list, not on anyone's anything, blah 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 blah. How is that going to get picked up?
What? Sorry, say that again.
If I'm going to start planning something, right? Some random thing as a lone wolf,
Got you.
not part of a group, not part of this, not part. It could be anything. I'm going to protest against.
You want to go down the lone wolf argument? Oh my God!
No,
come on.
Well, that's what we're looking at.
The whole fundamental thing about the lone wolf is that it's one of the most dangerous aspects.
But
because it's a lone wolf, the whole thing. There are no.
But if we could look out,
flags,
if we could look out for flags, if we could look out for keywords, if we could look out for. I'm sure we've got AI that can look out for patterns over a certain amount of period. No, someone's not just going to lone wolf it off the back of a cuff. That they're going to plan this for 2-3 months. But no matter what it is, whether it's robbing a bloody car dealership or
doing something worse,
or pressing the button, right? Yeah, they're going to be planning it for a bit, so we can have some sort of AI that can just sit in the background, going along. That data doesn't need to go anywhere until it's flagged. Why can't we have that? Because now I'm flagged. And now I can be looked at, and now I can be stopped. But you can't look at me. You currently can't look at me for no reason. But you can't look at me.
I don't want to.
No, but you haven't got a reason because we can't monitor the reason. So unless I literally walk around with a flag, then how are you going to look at me?
I really want you to walk around with a flag.
So basically, what we the central tenet here is, I mean, there's two types of what we're talking about. One is kind of like the commercial side of people observing, like, certain search engines keeping track of where you go to provide you with what they think you want and ads that earn them money. But that's not what you're talking about, though, Chris, is it? You're talking about government surveillance, such as
it can be a commercial thing. So it doesn't have to be. I'm not Googling how do I need bleach and something to make something go bang. It could be, how do I break into an Astra? How many times we're going to?
Why would you want to break into an Astra?
Do you know what I mean? Anything along them lines that's going to have that impacts the security of a company, or what someone's trying to stop, or it's a crime, or it's bigger than that, and it goes to government level and the whatnot. Why can't we look at that? Why do we need an excuse to look at that?
Right. What you're on about is the accumulation of data, isn't it?
Yeah.
That hoovering up, the ANPR stuff, the CCTV. Yeah. That is not a personal privacy issue, I'll argue, because it's a massive security issue more than anything, because you've got all that data now.
Yeah.
You've hoovered it up for monitoring for your flags, etc., and stuff like that. So, without what you're going to do with that, how are you going to secure that data and stuff like that? Because if it does breach, you've got a bigger problem, because you're releasing that record of, we've been monitoring this person because he really wants to steal an Astra. I don't know. No. To the world and stuff like that. So there is an element of.
But how do we protect it now from the people that we are looking at, whether it's on government level or not government level?
Yeah.
Because surely we just protect it in the same way. It's just bigger data. There's just more of it.
What you're about is constant surveillance, which with the lack of privacy, you're going to get quite a few problems out of it. One of them is one of the really horrible effects of no privacy, not having that private space to do what you want, admit, lone wolf scenario, etc., is that it stifles, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, you're less likely to go out and do anything like innovative or, out your comfort zone, and which may bring better prosper to society and all that jazz. And yes, you are less likely to do anything controversial, i.e. steal an Astra, really go to town on this Astra. But you're limited there is anything experimental or edgy, because privacy, believe it or not, is like a petri dish for society in terms of like coming up with ideas. So by doing that constant monitoring, you're actually, you're blocking a basic human right, to be free. And
how are you blocking a basic human right to be free? Everyone can still be free.
privacy.
On what though? So
but then I'm really trying not to do the A4 route here, but you're on almost going down. Like, why? Winston, isn't it, the lead character? He rebels against the party because he wants to stay human, because that party is all controlling, watching, monitoring, making sure that you do what you need to do, and stuff like that. But he rebels because he wants to stay human. By doing this constant monitoring, you're going to build that situation where you're going to get the lone wolf situation, if you think about it. By doing this constant monitoring, you're enticing that activity to come up as well. Yes, then you can watch it come up, but you've actually caused it.
But we can monitor it. And surely is that not a deterrent? So if I know
it's a deterrent, but it's also a root cause.
Do you, just out of interest, I mean, do you think that if we lived, some would argue that we currently do, with the more CCTV in the UK where we are than pretty much most other places on the planet, the US and being discovered to be monitoring people that they hadn't authorized monitoring through the usual channels, that was then shown by a certain individual who had to get the hell out of where he was and go and live in another country that was very diametrically opposed to that location. Old Edward Snowden. I mean, it's not a banned word, I don't think, on YouTube, I hope, or I've just banned us. But, so what's the... Where do we, there's the psychological issues that come out from that, from somebody thinking, am I being looked? Is somebody reading the email that I'm sending my mistress? Maybe they're having an affair, or maybe, now your piece, Chris, is, well, if they're not doing anything illegal, then they've got nothing to worry about.
Yeah. Yeah, and I get that what you're saying is, so that data's being collected, someone's got a mistress and they don't want their wife to find out through that, although illegal, but not, no one's getting killed exactly. But that data's not going to be collected. It's not against the law. No one's going to get arrested. No one's in. But that's no.
There's an argument to say that data is collected though, because it's CCTV.
Yeah, but I mean,
you've been watched constantly in this.
9 times, okay, fair enough. In that scenario, right? So, but 9 times out of 10, how's this person met whoever for this mistress? So he or she doesn't want that data being hacked, being sent to the world, and go, oh, by the way, you did you know X, Y, and Z?
What was that dated site that got hacked? That was specifically for that.
Andrea Madison.
Yes, that's it.
Ashley Madison or something.
Yeah, Ashley Madison. Yeah.
So you've gone on that site, right? But and then that's been hacked. Okay, fine. But what about WhatsApp? What about how are you exchange? No, they're not sending pigeons, are they? So they've put that information out there themselves, idiots.
But then this poses another one as well, and this leads nicely in actually to another area I wanted to go down. Because there's a lot of government, there's a lot of people in government, in various different governments, saying we need to have a backdoor through into encryption. We can't have encryption that we can't break.
Yeah.
But obviously, if you're using something like an encrypted communications channel to talk to somebody where you're not doing anything illegal, why should they be gathering that information anyway? Should it be by warrant, or should it be gathered and then just discounted down the line? I mean,
I think that there is, again, it's gathered, kept for a certain amount of time, and then discarded because unless it's needed. So again, if there's just cause to have a look,
but it's not needed.
How do you know though?
Why would it be?
But we've just got.
You should just collect it. You can't just in case.
Why not?
You? If you think about the retention, like what the GDPR bring in is like you can't keep personal data for just in case. You had to have a cut-off, a retention period, didn't you?
Yeah.
Like for HIs, 7 years after employment. Correct me if I'm wrong, especially in the UK. That type of stuff. You can't have it just in case. You can't, but they collected that HR data for a legitimate purpose because you were employed by that organisation. But for a government organisation to go, I'm having all your communications just in case, because there are tools out there that can manipulate this. What's the big one that they tried to sell the NHS? Palantir. Like that's a big tool that can hoover up all this data and manipulate it. Great tool. I've used it before, but it can be used for bad if you think about it, because they were going to bring in Palantir as well during COVID for all the COVID data and stuff like that. But thankfully, it didn't happen.
So currently, I would like I'm going to go simple stupid here. In the UK, a premises can't have CCTV without displaying signage to the general public that we have CCTV. So basically, coming at your own risk, you are being monitored for shoplifters or
you're being notified. And then there's a lot. You've got legitimate interest which overrides the rights of freedom. Blah blah blah.
Right. Yeah. So that's why, like, if you buy a Ring doorbell camera, for instance, you get a little sticky you'd like to put in your window, so postman knows that he's got. That's essentially telling them people it's your choice to walk up. Yeah.
Which is for private use, which is entirely different.
I know it's totally just where I'm going with this. So, there's a public space that is the roadway, not my drive, that I'm covering with my CCTV, and my neighbour's car across the road gets broken into and nicked. Can I show that? I've not told them on the road that they're being monitored. So if can I give them that? I've not informed that local highway they're being monitored by me.
Oh, you and your technicalities. Yeah, it's a good point. I'll give you that. And I hate giving you that. But yeah, these cameras are a sticky wicket, I suppose, because it's for private use, but can then it's submitted as evidence? I suppose then it's down the route of how is that evidence collection? Is it you? Have you gone down the chain of custody?
Yeah, is that a case for the courts though to decide whether it's
that is
it's
a case.
admissible?
Yeah.
If obviously, I mean, if somebody's breaking in and you've got CCTV on your property, or somebody gets attacked in the street and stuff, then the police do go around. I've seen them do this, and say, look, I see you've got CCTV. Can we have a look at it to see whether or not this incident, occurred and you've recorded it? That's one thing. But what we're talking about really here is the privacy rights of the individual. So let's assume no, breaking into cars or whatever has occurred. Is it right, for instance, that a certain government who may or may not have been in the West was monitoring wholesale large amounts of communications that were not being gathered necessarily for a specific crime? Now, the argument was, were they sifting for possible information behind that? But they had to have a warrant to do that.
But is that not just on a huge scale compared to the Ring doorbell camera? So the Ring doorbell or the camera that is currently on my house now, the CCTV, is running in the background, and it's sat in the cloud for 30 days. Until an incident is happened, right? There's no need to look at that, and that's most locations. No one's actively monitoring, because until an incident happens, there's no need. So, but is that not the same thing? So we monitor all this data, we monitor, not just CCTV. I mean, in general, and then when that flags something, either keywords or patterns in someone's behaviour, or something does happen, then we can go and look at it. But because we're monitoring it, we then have the evidence. We go, okay, this is where it started. This is what they were doing. Is this going to carry on? who were they talking to, who known on social, blah, 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 blah. But we've got all that data. We don't necessarily have to use it if nothing happens. And then after a certain time, it just goes. What I don't see the issue with that. In a Snowden way, they're collecting mass data, listening to people's phone calls, blah, 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 and then it just goes if nothing
So
comes
playing
of it.
devil's advocate here.
Really?
So in your view, if information is gathered from a government organisation rather than a commercial, let's go down that route.
Yeah,
that's okay to retain for however long, whatever the legislation is, all of it.
Yeah.
So, do you believe they should put backdoors into encryption to be able to facilitate that function?
Yeah, because again, they're not going to just go into the back door of everyone's communication for no reason. And if
Are they?
Go,
but also,
Iain. Go, fire, attack.
I mean, come on.
Again, if you've got...
sorry, a certain country that side of the pond,
but
they've got history of looking into people's data without warrants, without there's executive orders out there for it. EO 1227, is it? That allows this type of mass scale monitoring and invasion of privacy for going into this type of encryption. This is why the Data Privacy Shield was defunct, because of this, the issues with that, not these type of governments having access to that. And the whole issue with the encryption backdoor is, if you have that, someone's going to abuse it. Let's be honest. Maybe it might not be the government. Maybe they are one of the few upstanding governments, yet to be one. But a hacker will get somehow, or a bad person, let's call them that, will get to that and you exploit it. The US lost tools were breached, weren't they? If you remember what was the breach called? It's where all the NSA's hacking tools were breached. And then that quickly got turned on its head. So having a backdoor is going to lead to a bigger issue. It's going to lead to, there is that issue of the US, a certain government, almost said that.
That's what you say. I don't think it's not a banned word.
All right. Of monitoring without a warrant and stuff, which is an infringement of a human right, let's be honest. But then you're going to get someone, don't pull that face, but you're going to get someone that is a bad actor who's going to abuse that. It's simple. It always has happened. It's history repeating itself. Let's be honest.
So the monitoring of the backdoor issue, we were talking about Snowden, so let's carry on that and what the US did. I mean, I don't know the answer, but how long was that going on before the whistle blown of Snowden? Do we know? Was he working there for
a long time?
A long time.
Yeah, a long time.
And no one knew about it.
No. Well,
so
he obviously his institution knew about it because they were doing it.
No, I mean, so the general population.
Oh, it was Snowden that
didn't have a clue.
I'm guessing some people suspected.
No,
like they always do. But it was Snowden that popped up and said, "Hey guys, do realise that this is going on a much bigger scale." Because it's one thing to suspect, but it's one thing to have it confirmed. Because if and he because he released it all on WikiLeaks, didn't he? Along with did he release a load of documentation or something as well that went with it that proved it as well?
Yeah, didn't he publish it all pretty much to a reporter in, I think he was in like Hong Kong or something, wasn't he? And then he flew over to
The Guardian. Yeah.
And then I think Julia Assange's been releasing bits here, sporadically, hasn't he? After that, is that right?
He released it all in a big bang, but there was other stuff that was released.
Did
afterwards.
it? Oh, right.
But, like additional items. But I mean, one of the things that you guys pointed out actually, which is a really good point, it's like you hear quite regularly about, for instance, individuals who are employed by the police who utilise inappropriately the CCTV or the records. Here we go. Iain's jumping in.
Just look at the ICO website. Look at the ICO website. Look at the actions taken. You will find like NHS staff abusing their rights on the NHS systems to like stalk their ex and stuff like that, and they've been fined like almost £2,000, but they've been fined, and stuff like that.
If you do have individuals sifting through this, Chris, would you agree that there has to be some really strict gateposts for them to be able to, like, you're not allowed to look, for instance, at your own area, your own family or close friends, because let's face it, if you had a database stuffed full of information and you were distraught because you felt that your husband was playing away from home or your wife was playing away from home, wouldn't you be tempted to have a little look?
Yeah, no, I get that. Like, so we'll take the police, for instance, and, they can request an ANPR check on X, Y, and Z. And they have to justify that NPR check, which goes through their supervisor and then says, what's the reasoning? And as long as you can justify a reasoning, speeding down the motorway.
Justifiable cause.
Justifiable cause. No, got no problems. But that's the same on all sides of data. So what the question was before about the US and Snowden, how long was that going on before he whistleblow and said this, that? And how much did that? We're probably never going to see the data, but how much security did that stop? How much bad things did that stop compared to afterwards, where they've now got to put well more resources in, well more. We've got to get this warrant. We've got to look why we're doing this. I'm going to say immensely. They made it so much more difficult by having these now processes and legislations in place once the whistle blown out than it was just collecting all the data. And then people just sifting through it, having a look. Is this need to be looked at? No, next. Does this need to be looked at? No, next. Okay, well, this is flagged up twice. They've done this 3-4 times. Okay, we can now have a little bit more of a look. Bit more of an investigation, but you've got all the information there. I don't see the problem with that personally.
Is there a way, Iain, that this kind of observation and review of people's communications, private information, whatever, could be reviewed in a way that you would deem as acceptable? Would you say, let's say, for example, let's use AI. I mean, everybody's a buzzword, or if you had an AI that was compiling reports on specifics, but human operators didn't have access to that data, and that AI would only report on what it would deem as certain types of activity involving things that go bang. Could that be acceptable for privacy, do you think?
You can add bias to an AI. As a human, we will add bias. Well, not intentionally, just unintentionally, and the data set itself as well. Because if you look at ChatGPT and all that stuff, when you type in certain questions, you'll get some shocking responses. You're like, eesh, like some very right-wing or centric responses sometimes, and that type of stuff. You can have a look. It's out there. There's some articles around it, and you're just like, oof. So yes, I say AI. If you can use AI to have your set your boundaries, the rules, and stuff like that, it's all dependent on that data set, though, and that's the difficult bit. Is getting a unbiased data set, so to speak. So how you go about that is going to be interesting. But yeah, you have to collect that data, obviously, and you're going to have to get it from somewhere, which is really a really difficult thing, because then you're back at square one. Like, it's all very well giving this rules and stuff. It's still going to need that data in the first place, isn't it, to train itself? So you're back to square one around this argument of it's mass surveillance. Why are we doing it? It's a privacy, fundamental rights. Back to you're basically coming full circle again, unfortunately, or maybe not for Chris, because he just wants to do it anyway. But
do you know what?
I mean, technology it's brilliant. I love it, but it's moving too fast for privacy and stuff like that. If you take AI, you think about how it's optimizing advertising, monitors your behavior, then it's the data loop feedback. You'll start the way they target ads nowadays on the internet. It's just because of you've moved slightly your mouse and stuff like that, or you clicked, so you hovered over a certain thing. You'll start getting those ads and stuff like that. It's really clever, and it is an invasion of your privacy because admittedly, if you've got cookies and you can deny them, but not every in the US, you don't need cookie banners and all that jazz. It's really, really good. But turn that on its head, that can be used for bad as well, because you could turn it into propaganda. Look at Cambridge Analytica. They did pretty much that. They harvested loads of data and then went, "Oh, you're a mum against 5G. You seem like you'll want some Trump." And then shoved a load of that down. And
this leads into another aspect of the whole privacy versus security debate, because let's look at big tech. Big tech, the big boys who will remain nameless because we're kind of on the platform of one of them. They've been kind of gathering information for God knows how long. Cambridge Analytica has been involved in it.
Mm.
Do you think it's right that private firms gather and utilize potentially that sensitive data? Because doing it for law enforcement and for the protection of the public is one thing. But we're seeing quite a significant issue in big tech at the moment in, kind of the argument between right wing, left wing, what's right, what's not right. You hate speech, what's hate speech. You shouldn't be able to talk about certain things, cancel culture and all the rest of it, which a lot of it is not being driven by government. It's being driven by, big tech, who are hoovering up. They're hoovering up more information, I guess, than the government. All the government cares about is whether you're doing something right or wrong.
Yeah, they're enabling that. I'd say they're providing the tools to make it easier to.
Do you think they should be allowed to do that, or do you think they should only be allowed to create to gather a certain subset? Because the worst thing in the world is for somebody to hack into one of their data sets and then utilize that. I mean, there's plenty of ransomware groups out there with very talented hackers. If they got into that, and they have done several times, got into that kind of data set and then released that wholesale online,
Right, sticky wicket, public debate, government, rules, legislation that you want. Businesses, yes, they have to, within the legal boundaries of stuff, but they're not there to facilitate the people, let's be honest. They're there to serve the board, shareholders and stuff like that, to the bottom line. So should they be allowed to, if you start putting rules and regulations, I know I sound like I'm absolutely contradicting myself here, but I hate capitalism at the best of times, but I need to get paid.
Wow.
If you start putting those boundaries in for a business, you're going to stifle innovation. You are going to stifle a lot of it and that type of stuff. And as I said, I love technology and the way it gets better and better. By doing that, there's already legislation out there that kind of limit that GDPR, CPRA, that kind of limit with the CPRA now has the do not sell, and I think Utah and Virginia and Colorado are now coming into line with that as well. There are laws already out there, but they don't prevent you from doing it. They give you a set of guidelines that says you can do this if you have X lawful basis. Let's be honest, lawful. Lawful. So your legitimate interest, your consent, your contractual and stuff like that. So you kind of have that already from a privacy point of view. That set of regulations and set of laws of what they can collect and who and whether. If you think about the big techs, the ones that have maps and this platform and stuff like that, there's a consent element there. Yes, it's buried. You have to find it to turn it off and stuff like that, but it's there, if you know what I mean. So they are playing fast and loose with it to an extent and say, yeah, it's there, but you have to dig with it. Whereas governments, to my eyes, are a completely different set because they're there to serve us, the people. And us, the people, have those fundamental rights. So to hoover that data up without our consent or anything like that, they don't have. Yes, they still have to abide by the legislation, but there's caveats within that legislation that actually supports them to do that, which is a bit one of the issues as well.
What about the usage of that, just before we go over to Chris, because I know he's desperate. Do you think it's more of a problem of the way that they use that data or the fact that they're harvesting it and potentially not securing it?
The use, always, what's your purpose, why? If I've consented to you, I expect you to use it only for that reason. And that's it. But they'll use it outside of those boundaries. I'm going to be that person that puts it in an ICO complaint. But
I mean, where do you even go with putting a complaint in? Who does that?
Yeah, there's people out there that love it. I follow quite a few people who are quite more privacy fight the right than me. Jeez, yeah. It's very easy to put a complaint in, yeah. Just go to the website.
I half and half get it, 50-50. But so big tech companies, big tech companies, we have to consent for them to gather a bit of data, and mainly, 95% of it is for advertising, so they can see our trends, they can see what we're doing, and then they generate revenue by advertising individually to us and the whatnot. But that's how they make money, and that's how they get paid. Blah 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 blah. So, if we took that away and you had to sign into that, for instance, instead of saying no, please, I'll opt out, and all that, we now have to say yes, you can, and you automatically opt out. So, surely that revenue plummets, because if everyone says, oh no, you can't monitor what I'm doing and what I'm doing, but that's their platform to own. They can, as wrong as it may be, if they do a cancel culture or whatnot, and they can monitor what you say, and they're going to do, they're going to look at what we're talking about, and we say the couple of things and we get cancelled, because that's their platform. They can do what they want with that, and then on that, so they're monitoring. If we say something, if we start talking and going way off scale, then they go to the authorities and go, oh, by the way, I'm just letting you know that this happened and here's the data. What's the difference in that just being monitored in the background all the time?
You love monitoring, don't you?
Yeah. I absolutely love it.
What is your obsession with it?
Do you know what? I'm gonna chuck the AI and I know we spoke about facial recognition on the last time, right? And then consent to that. But so I flew back from the States yesterday. I was at JFK.
Oh, there we go.
Right?
Big brags.
And all right, you do your passport control, and that's fine. Everyone signed up to that, no dramas. But my ticket was my face. So BA must have LinkedIn to passport control.
Surely you've got to consent to that, because it's special category data, biometrics.
For me to get onto that plane yesterday, instead of someone saying, can I see your boarding pass, sir? And then going, bloop, and then away you go. So obviously they get your boarding pass, they look at your name, it's valid, they look at your passport, yes, that's you, away you go. I just stood in front of a camera and it grabbed my face and went, Chris Dawson, big green light, away you pop.
Maybe it's the fact that you can actually opt out of that right at the gate and say, no, I don't want you to look at my face, I want a person. Because you can, because that's automatic profiling, isn't it, under GDPR. So you can opt out of that. So probably there is a way of, unless did they have a sign or anything like that? I know it's the US, so probably not. They're probably just going, what else?
It bothers me. It bothers me not. So I didn't look for one.
I love that, because I love the use of technology for when it's right, and that if you consent to that, perfect, go for it.
But then we've got that, and then you've got a lot of people that go, I'm just getting on a plane and I'm just doing this, so that's all right. But I can't believe such and such a body's whinged at me because I sort of posted this on social media. They shouldn't be monitoring me. It's bad. Well, hang on a minute. You're all right to do it walk in the airport. Yeah, but that's fine because I can't moan about it, and I can't.
And you're about picking and choosing when it suits you, aren't you? That's your argument,
yeah,
right?
Don't pick and choose. Like we're having it or we're not.
Stand your ground.
Yeah, we're having it or we're not.
Anarchy.
Yeah, and we go back to my car was broken into. Can the police help me? Oh no, sorry, we're not allowed to do that because of data privacy. We can't look at anything. Blah blah blah. I know it's a big full circle.
It doesn't go to that extent.
I just think the tools are there, the AI is there. We can utilize it. We can go into backdoors on bits and bobs for reasons. But like you said, without collecting that data, that the horse has gone. Let's shut the door. Oh, the horse has gone. Instead, it's run off in the field. Finished. Pointless.
So your argument, we have that data. Just give up.
No, the data's there. Let's collect it. Let's legislate how it's looked at and monitored and whatnot. But it's collected. We don't have to sign in for it. You don't have to. That's the issue. Just don't do anything that you should be doing.
So just out of interest, so okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate here and jump onto the side of Iain here to a certain extent. So let's just say that you decide to go out and demonstrate. It's our right to demonstrate if we see fit. We know that the facial recognition technology and the gate technology about how you walk and all the rest of it is utilised for them to monitor that local area. But you mentioned legislation, and we all know that legislation changes and can be changed without authorisation necessarily from the masses, because we only vote in the UK every 4 years for who we want in government. And they can then go and make changes, to a large degree to the rules of the laws of the land, with obviously authorisation from various different houses. I won't go into it because it will get complicated for those people who aren't in the UK. But in essence, they can get a law change saying, right, okay, we're going to stop demonstrating, or we're going to stop certain types of demonstrations, and then potentially misuse the original intent behind what that gathering of information was in a way that isn't conducive to what the populace wants. Do you think that's right, or do you think that's wrong? Do you think the people should decide where this starts and stops and how it should be used, or do you think government know best? I can see Iain smiling now behind his giant beard.
I know, because he knows my answer. He knows my answer. Government definitely do not know best. But also, there's no reason for. So we take a demonstration and that being monitored, and the way they use that is facial recognition, for instance, looks at different people and goes, and put that data together. He or she or they were at this location this time, then they was at this location this time, and then they see a pattern, but that's no different than using people to do that with cameras and literally just gathering all that data as they do. It's just more cost effective for AI and technology to do it. For me, and then if I'm going on a protest, I'm protesting about whatever I'm protesting about. It's a legitimate protest. It's organised. There's no violence. There's no crime. We're just protesting. There's no problem. Monitor away, because we're not doing anything wrong. The minute we start to do something wrong, I want them to stop that. Or someone starts doing something wrong in that protest. One, it's going to have a detrimental effect to our protest, because then we just look like idiots. Whatever we're trying to, save the whales, for instance, and then someone starts smashing up a house. You're like, well, hang on a minute. That's not what we're about, and that's not where we are. So I want that protest to be monitored, and then them individuals taken away, and so we can get on with our peaceful protest, for instance. But if it's not monitored and we're not collecting that data, or them known individuals have done this before in 3 other places in the UK, random protests where you just get people just turning up just because, and then doing that. As soon as their face is recognised off that database, that it can be flagged up. Oh, Iain's on this protest again, or the last three he was on, he went and smashed a car up as he was walking. He's not there for any reason whatsoever. It was an Astra. Yeah, absolutely perfect. Go and get him. What are you doing? Say the protest is not the issue.
No.
Monitor away. Yeah, monitor away. Have a look. See patterns. We've got the technology. Let's utilize it. Utilize it to the best of its advantage. Obviously, I'm not saying that we just, but we can legislate it.
Does that mean then we should all have body cameras that monitor everything around us, so we can either prove or disprove something that the government or an organisation has?
We do.
Yeah, but and I mean strapped to our chest. Because it is getting to that point. For instance, in when you're driving, dash cams now to prove you didn't bash into it, and it was one of those dodgy scammers that jumped on the bonnet of your car as you were driving past. Is that what we're going to end up having to do to, in an argument against potentially being arrested for allegedly doing something when you didn't do it, but it looks like you were part of that? Because, if you ever see a proper riot, it's bedlam. There's people trying to get away. The stuff that's going on in France at the moment is horrible. I saw some horrible sort of students and old women just they get caught up. They're in there. They can't get anywhere. They get kettled in, and before you know it, the batons come out and what have you. But then you've got lunatics running around with firebombing the whole bleeding place. They just burnt an entire town hall down, I read this morning.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Where does this end? Because it's like my personal stance is I kind of sit where Iain sits personally. But equally, I do want to feel that if something bad was to happen, that there would be sufficient evidence through CCTV and certain types of monitoring. I don't believe communications or internet usage should be monitored at all, unless maybe you flag a certain thing. But then most of that technology is pretty easily defeated if you know how you're doing it. Especially if you're an information security professional and you know how Tor works. But then does that automatically mean you're potentially a criminal because you're using encryption that can't be broken, which then goes back to I'm allowed to look at whatever I want. If I want to look at what certain chemical interactions do, it doesn't immediately make me want to go out and build something to go boom, boom.
No, it doesn't. But with that, I think we could utilize AI to put something. So you look at what chemical interactions work, but then you also start, then you're looking at locations and movement of people and or certain individuals over a sustained period of time. Because I say I was going to say I've done these, but that sounds like I was a terrorist and I've done it. So planning that sounded terrible.
You heard it here first, guys.
No, so
when
you're planning something, you've got to do your due diligence to plan whatever you're planning. And I'm saying I've did it on the good side, not on the other side. But you're still going to do that, and then there's a pattern there, and that AI could surely we could see that, and then it gets flagged. No one's physically monitoring it, because we haven't got enough manpower to do that anyway. But it's being monitored, it's being looked at. Like something's gone. This isn't not right. Let's just have a little another look. Oh yeah, he did this 3 weeks ago, and then this 2 weeks up. Okay, there's a slight pattern here. I will now flag this up of the rules that we've set in place. And we can do non-biased rules by going on previous data. We can take data for the last 100 years, input that, and then say, this is what we're looking for, give or take.
Iain, what do you say about that?
I think speechless. He's actually said, yes, Chris, you're exactly right on there.
I just thought, what an utter load of nonsense that was just coming out of your mouth. So, are we doing final thoughts? Is this me rebuttaling?
This is the kind of final thoughts, I suppose. It's we've heard the argument for and we've heard the argument against. So, has Chris convinced you that you are wrong in any way, shape, or form?
Never.
Or has he emboldened and strengthened you against, to fight against the potential abuse of your private information?
If anything, he is a terrorist to my private data. That is my no, that is not my final thought. No, I don't agree. Monitoring and stuff like that. Yes, I see your argument around stopping bad things and having the evidence. I get that. That is fully well documented and can be used in that certain way. But it's when you've got accumulated mass surveillance and accumulated amount of private data that can be manipulated to the public, let's say on a massive scale like propaganda, privacy is no longer a luxury that we have, let's be honest. Because you've taken that away from me. And, I'd like it back, thanks. But too late. As you said, the horse is already bolted. But you end up with pretty much asymmetric privacy, which is really what you're on about, I think, Chris, is like the way you can basically have the facility to having all that data. You can almost put a narrative down that suits that government or entity or anything like that. And so you're making it less opaque, everything like that. Your money in the waters and stuff like that. And when personal data can be used, when you got mass surveillance as well, or the threat thereof, you're going to stifle like experimenting with new ideas and stuff like that as well. It puts the fear of God in people, doesn't it? Let's be honest. Which is to your point. Therefore, they're not going to do anything naughty. But what if they want to do something that's slightly naughty, but it's still in the bounds of the legal, but they won't because they're being monitored all the time? You're stifling that. You're actually stifling like progress as well. Let's be honest. By having it all.
Well, you just said they're in the boundaries of being legal, so there's a justification and legality to it.
Yeah, but I mean, if you think about it,
they've got great things so you've got nothing to worry about.
Anyway, but yeah, basically, we don't have. My final thought is personal data is personal privacy no longer a luxury that we have, really.
Right, so let's go over to Judge Dredd, Chris, who believes in total monitoring and no rights for all and what have you. Do you think that Iain has convinced you that you are maybe a bit, sort of totalitarian, like Judge Dredd, in the ability to monitor everything and react quickly to potential threats and issues,
or thought
crimes, or do you think has he sharpened your resolve and made it more steadfast with his left-wing views?
No, and no.
Left-wing. Centrist, if that.
I'm still under the opinion that that we should be able to monitor. Granted, I will give him a little 10% here that it needs to be regulated. If we can do that properly, then there's no. But then, if we can do that properly, there's no reason why we can't hold that data. That's my point. We're not holding it now. We're not gathering it. I hope they say they're not. Fine. But I think we've got the tools to be able to do that and look for what we need to look for on a mass scale and on a small scale. But yes, it needs to be regulated a little bit more in order for us to be able to do that. But no, I'm still all for it. And I'm still, with the whole, if you're not doing anything illegal or wrong or illegal really, anything against any legislation, then you don't have anything to worry about.
I think that we're spending so much time innovating ways to gobble up information and store this information. What we're not thinking about is secure ways that this information can be accessed, utilised, and then disseminated. Technically speaking, we only need to keep information on individuals that are of interest. And this is why I brought up the AI thing. Why not utilize an AI to sift the information, just deleting it as it goes? Well, if it's of no interest whatsoever, just getting rid of it there and then, not in maybe in quite real time. We're not quite there yet. But then if it does detect a pattern of concern, like somebody's going to get something with two wings and do something terrible with it, that it will then retain that information and build that kind of story based off of the surveillance that it's doing. I get that. We've got some really great technology coming down the line, and we're all brilliant at innovating technology. The human race is very good at that. But I do side a lot with Iain. I see a lot of misuse, which concerns me. And the thought, I want to be able to sit at home and do anything that I want. I'm not going to do anything illegal, but I don't know if somebody's going to then suddenly legislate that, well, actually, all of that is terrible. So what we're going to now do is we're going to erode your rights away to see whether you've done something terrible, because we think you might have bought some shares and sold them and not told HMRC, or the local tax office, because we all love the local tax office. I love HMRC. Please don't investigate us at all, because that's expensive and horrible. Now I'm going to get investigated. But I just think, for me, I do think we should have a certain amount of monitoring to protect the public. But equally, I just see so many elements of misuse there. If we could find a way to reduce the chance of that misuse, maybe do a little bit of better legislation with the public in mind and say, look, we want to be able to do this. It is potentially going to have an impact on overall privacy to a certain extent in these areas. So if you're in a public place, there's going to be CCTV. Yeah. We are going to retain that for 90 days, and have a vote on it. We're a democracy after all. We should be able to have a say. Admittedly, that means we'd end up with lots of voting, but different people have different governments have different agendas, and I don't like all the agendas that I see. And not just here in the UK, all over the place. I mean, it gets really, really weird in certain parts of the world. Who shall remain nameless, who may or may not manufacture lots of things and like to remove things from history so they never happened, which again, it could be easily done. It could easily, this could lead to that. And that's what we don't want. So I don't know. I'm nicely on the fence, but leaning a bit more towards Iain on my opinion. But it's been an interesting debate, and it's led to another topic I think we can deal with next time. And you can make a note of this one, Chris, just in case you fly across the pond. The danger of deep fakes and security in general, ransoming, deep fakes, somebody providing a video of you doing something with somebody you shouldn't do and then sending it to your partner and saying, look what this person's doing, or I will send this to your partner. Well, it might not well be, Iain. I'll let you have that conversation with your partner.
It would definitely be deep fake with Iain.
But no, I think next time we should go into that. It was something that was actually mentioned on one of the other podcasts by one of the other guys about how the malicious actors are changing and becoming a lot more frightening in the way that they're potentially utilising their attack patterns, and some of the social engineering things that they're doing with members of family members in the same space where you're working.
Yeah,
potentially. So, but we'll go into that next time. So, Chris, Iain, my beloved co-host, it's been a wonderful time watching you argue. And for all of you out there, thank you ever so much for watching. We are a snap swing away from 5K subscribers on our YouTube channel. Please feel free to go there and subscribe. That would be fantastic. It's great for us. It's great for InfoSec in general. And it's definitely good for the careers of Chris and Iain. Looking forward to be a part of this wonderful, wonderful podcast that we're here to do today. So thank you ever so much for watching. Please look after yourselves, and we'll see you all again soon.